And wrapping up here, there in verse 24, it says, and straightway the father of the child cried out and said with tears, Lord, I believe, help thou mine unbelief. And straightway in the Greek translate to eutheos, which means immediately. And I'd like to submit to you this morning that our faith ought to always be immediate. If faith is the key that unlocks the door, if you have the key in your pocket and you need to get in the door, why would you not immediately use the key? And at one hand, the father said he believes, and at the other hand, the father says, help my unbelief. How can you say I believe and then say help my unbelief? This father had just a tiny amount of faith, but this great amount of unbelief. But he taught us another great lesson here, and that even with faith the size of a mustard seed, if you speak to that mountain and say, be thou removed, the mountain will be removed. The father took his emphasis on the small amount of faith that he had, and that small amount of faith overshadowed this great amount of doubt. And I assure you this morning that there is no contradiction between an affirmation of faith and a confession of unbelief. Because he said, even though I don't believe fully, take my belief that I do have God and make up for my unbelief. And this father realized something that many of us have yet to realize when dealing and talking to God. This father knew, what sense would it make to lie to Jesus and say, I have all the faith? Jesus already knew about his unbelief. Verse 26 says, the spirit tore the boy so bad one last time everybody thought that he was dead. Can y'all join me here for a minute? Can you imagine a boy laying there at such a very low point? He was so dead in here, some of y'all got on your phones and text Sister Gooseby and told her to bring the hearse, because this boy is out of here. He was messed up. But oh, my brothers and sisters, I told y'all I'm from the country. My aunt would sing this little country song growing up, that if he has to reach way down, Jesus will pick you up. And the Bible says there in verse 27, but when Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And I want to say to you this morning that it might look to you like this generation is dead. It might look to you like there's no hope. It might look to you that the future is dim, but Jesus looked beyond our faults and saw our needs. And all I'm trying to tell you this morning is that some of you may be dealing with so many things in life, and some people have counted you out. You may be dealing with peer pressure, and you've made some mistakes this morning, but you can still say, I ain't dead. Oh Lord, I've discovered on this morning that our children are facing all kinds of sicknesses and illnesses that the generation before has never had to deal with. They may be struggling with homosexuality, but they can still say, I ain't dead. They may be struggling with being a lesbian, but they can still say, I ain't dead. They may be struggling with depression and low self-esteem this morning, but you can still say, I ain't dead. And I don't know what you may be going through this morning, but whatever the case is, you can say that I ain't dead. And I wonder, is there anybody in this house this morning that is willing to say that I ain't dead? I found myself in some dead situations. I found myself in some dead places. I found myself amidst some dead people, but I am not dead. And if you believe this morning that no matter what you may have died from, Jesus has a resurrection power, because he rose not only himself from the dead, but Lazarus was dead, but he rose. Jairus' daughter was dead, but she rose. There were so many other people in the Bible that have faced some deaths, but they did rise. And even though it looks dead to you, not dead to the Lord. And can I be true to my grandmother this morning? She told me growing up that if anybody's done something kind for you, Marcus, you ought to tell them thank you. Can I tell the Lord thank you this morning for getting me out of a dead situation? Thank you. Yes. Thank you for waking me up this morning. Thank you for starting me on my way. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Do you know him? Yes. Will you trust him? Yes. Y'all got to excuse me. I feel like I'm in the country right now, but I'll tell you this story and I'll sit down. There was a young man and his mother that were in a store shopping. And his mother would tell him to go get me some milk off that shelf. And he would say yes. She said, go get me some eggs off of that shelf. And he would say yes. And finally they got to the candy aisle. And this boy thought to himself, I've done everything that my mother has asked me to do. Surely she'll buy me a piece of candy. He asked his mother for some candy, and she said, son, you've done everything I've asked you to do. He said, yes. She said, son, I would love to get you some candy, but I can't afford to get you any candy. And the boy said, all right. And when they went to the checkout counter, the man who owned the store said, I watched you, young man. You were so well behaved. Why don't you reach in this jar and get you some candy? Oh, but the little boy said, thank you, but no thank you. And the boy said, I saw you when your mama told you to get some milk and butter. You went and got it. And he said, yes. And the man said, reach in and get you some candy. But the boy said, no thank you. And finally the man reached his hand in the candy jar and gave the boy a handful of candy. And with a smile on his face, he said, thank you. But when him and his mother walked out of the store, she said, son, why didn't you take the candy? But the boy said, mama, the reason I didn't take the candy when he told me to get it was I knew the store owner's hand was bigger than mine, and if he got me some candy, he could give me more candy than I could give myself. And I don't know what you're going through tonight, but if you just put it in the hands of the Lord, he will. You will know he will tonight. Why don't you say yes?